I am back, Rhodes for the Matrixx and Rhodes show, and well, I've got a review for Season 3, Episode 2 of The Mandalorian. No live stream this morning. Matrixx had some business to attend to, so here we are. Will be some little spoilers in here, but nothing significant, I don't think, to the overall storyline as far as spoilers go. I will let you know, where he ends up and what happens, because I can't really talk about the episode unless I do. What I will lead with is a far superior episode over the season premiere. And the one thing I told Matrixx this morning was, plain and simple, this should have been the first episode of Season 3. It just would have made a lot more sense. It certainly had moments that were worthy of the Mandalorian as far as action goes, and I felt good about that. We got some really good Mandalorian interaction with Bo-Katan. I like that, Din Djarin and Bo-Katan. It looked like she might have had a real problem with Mando, and then there was a nice little sort of flip the script on the spot. And it also kind of gave me an idea of exactly how she feels about the Mandalorian when push comes to shove. Either that or they're running a little okey doke on us, one of the two. So we found out that Mando had never been on Mandalore before, and the planet he grew up on was a neighboring planet. And I found that rather interesting. I was like, wow, is there no travel? Do people not go? Like, you could literally see his planet from Mandalore's planet. And I was like, but you've never been on Mandalore. I found that odd. Now, the episode starts out with him making a trip, yet another trip, back to Tatooine. Wow, they love this planet. I can't say anything because Tatooine was one of my favorite planets in the original trilogy. And, of course, even in the prequels, there was something about that planet. You can tell a lot of people know that it looks and feels like Star Wars in a lot of ways. Go back there to visit the mechanic, who he goes back there for a droid. And, oh, my God, in true Disney fashion, the memorberries start. That's right. They go and they pull R5-D4 out. Yeah, that's right. The real little red and white droid, astromech droid that we've seen ever since the beginning of A New Hope. We saw that droid, of course, spring a motivator. This droid's got a bad motivator. I think, if I remember right. Well, anyway, we saw it pop up in the first season of The Mandalorian. It was very cool. But now this droid, who has now been acquired, his new master is Din Djarin. And it's like, wait a minute. R5-D4 is about to have a significant part of the Star Wars story. I actually found that to be kind of charming and kind of cool. I was like, okay, well, that's sort of a long circle around for this droid to finally become much more significant to Star Wars. Darksaber was in the house in full effect in this episode, which was pretty cool to see. They got lucky. Mandalore's atmosphere was completely breathable thanks to some plot armor, okay? And, look, that happens in a lot of different shows. I get it. But luckily, they didn't even need the droid to test it out because the droid got itself in a bind right off the bat, and Mando had to go get it. Now, there was a droid spider in this thing, and it felt like something out of Attack of the Clones. Well, I don't know if I'm going nuts, but I swear to God this was a Geonosian down there, underground on Mandalore, and that also had droid parts on it. I guess that was actually helping assist keep it alive. Its head popped off and rolled itself back into this droid, and it started walking again. You might be asking, well, why did the head pop off? Because Mando got captured, okay, And then all of a sudden, Grogu is sent out to go get Bo-Katan. It's a little odd because she's sitting on her throne. She does nothing, I guess. Nothing. If nobody comes to visit her, she is doing nothing. She's sitting on her throne, and a droid walks in. We got a visitor back. She looks out the window. It's Mando, and she's like, "We're going to end this once and for all. I don't want him here," or something. And you're like, "Okay, are they fixing to get into a fight?" So she walks outside, and it's Grogu. All right, in the new ship, and he pops up, and she's like, "Where's Din Djarin?" And the look from anger to, and I'm about to confront Mando, and it turned immediately into, and I got to give Katie Sackhoff credit for this, a true sense of concern. She was like, "Where's Mando?" And so they get in her ship, which was very, very cool, and they go back down to where the mines are, to where the creature is, the Geonosian. I still think that's what it was. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I'm sure somebody more nerdy than me will have to go to the trouble to tell me. So anyway, she goes down there. She has a confrontation with this creature and the droid machine that he or she was riding in, and dispatches of it. Very cool. It's kind of funny because Grogu is scared a lot in this episode, right? Very young creature. And I did say that there's something charming about the idea that Grogu as a creature and as a being in the Star Wars galaxy, being so strong with the Force, there's something charming about Grogu lacking the self-awareness to realize that he's probably the strongest creature on that entire planet, right? That if he truly wanted to wreck the ultimate shop, Grogu could. Even, maybe even with limited training, he could do real damage, and obviously any little creature that came along, he could dispatch. And we even see a little bit of that. He runs into these, there's some two-legged caveman-looking characters that have multiple glowing eyes in this thing, and he runs into a confrontation with one, and Grogu just picks it up and throws it out of a cave and gets it out of the way. And they just told you, look, with very little effort, Grogu is at least to the point where he can, for the most part, defend himself. But again, it's kind of charming realizing, or him knowing, or not knowing, that he's probably the strongest entity there. I thought Mandalore was visually awesome, was a badass planet. It looks like hell. It's been through hell, but it was visually cool. When Bo-Katan was flying through the atmosphere, flying through the thunderstorms was, I thought, pretty cool. It was a nice little touch. Overall, this episode was much stronger than the premiere episode of season 3. Again, I don't know why this episode was not episode 1, but then again, I don't know why episode 1 wasn't, the first of those 2 Mandalorian episodes of the Boba Fett, which still make no sense. If he was going to get Grogu back, it should have been sometime in season 3, but that tells you the lack of story they had for that Boba Fett show, that they had to literally stick in a couple of random Mandalorian season 2.5 episodes. So that's a lack of planning. That's a rush to get a series out because they were like, oh my God, everybody's freaking out because Boba Fett's back. Let's cram out a series as quickly as possible, and it turned out to be a train wreck. Once again, Disney does not value storytelling. So take your time, good stories, no wokeness, no identity politics, and roll out a good story. I thought finding the springs under Mandalore would take a little longer. It didn't. He found them pretty quick. He also got himself in some trouble in doing so. So, just to conclude all this, wrap it up, put a nice little fat bow on it. It was a 39-minute episode. In my opinion, sort of around that perfect time length, somewhere between, 39 minutes and 50 minutes, 52 minutes, something in there, generally speaking, means you're getting a stronger episode. Much better episode than the first episode. I gave last week's a 6.5. I give this one a 7.5 out of 10. I mean, with a 10 being, series, maybe series premiere. Obviously, the Luke Skywalker Returns episode was a 10. Boba Fett returning was, a 10, 9.5 kind of thing because, he was very badass in that episode. I will say this. Second episodes of these kind of series are generally the weaker episodes of series like this, and this wasn't a filler episode, okay? Which is odd because the opening episode felt very much like a filler episode, which is not what you want for episode 1. Episode 2 comes roaring in, and it doesn't feel like a filler episode at all. He actually goes places and accomplishes things and acquires a droid, and then actually starts looking for the mines and finds the mines and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I was like, okay, there was actually things done, actually things accomplished, actual peril being put into, Bo-Katan roaring back in this episode. And it was just a much better episode. It truly was. Of course, as always, this show is visually stunning. I mean, the special effects is not something that, in my opinion, ever slips on this. I thought there were a couple of times they were shoddy in the Obi-Wan series and in the Book of Boba Fett, but for the most part, in The Mandalorian, they keep it pretty tight. So, on a side note, couple of things. Very quickly, I saw where Andor was originally planned for 5 seasons. Okay, in the last couple of days it has come out, Diego Luna does not want to do 5 seasons. He won't do 5 seasons. And they also realized that on a scale, 5 seasons, I guess they felt was too vast. They're not using the volume on that series. That's actual on-location filming. So it's going to just be 2 seasons and 3 episode blocks accounting for 1 year, because the series will last, as far as the story goes, a total of 5 years, with now each year being 3 episodes. Okay, until they get to the end, which is supposed to lead up very closely to Rogue One. All right. Tony Gilroy is the showrunner on that show. I liked Andor. I said that's how you can do different feeling Star Wars and not to ruin, Star Wars lore or Star Wars canon, or not touch any of that. Like Rian Johnson just kept pissing on Star Wars for 2.5 hours straight. This was different. This felt different, but it was still good, and it was strong acting, and the story was good. Slower pace, and now it does make a little more sense, knowing that they thought it was going to be 5 seasons, that the season was much more intricate character building, like you see on some of the other shows that have been successful across various platforms. So anyway, that's a side note, little Andor news. Things actually got done. There was actual action in this episode. Mandalorian got to be a badass. Bo-Katan got to be a badass. And that I appreciate. I do. Star Wars Celebration, I saw the poster. It is all Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, it looks like. The Favreau verse. Luke is on the poster. Ahsoka is on the poster. The Mandalorian is on the poster. You get the point. Odd. No sequel trilogy. None of that. Very interesting. That's in April, I believe. And I think it's in London. Peace. I'm out. Till next time.